What's up everybody, this is Ven bringing you another MOC Spotlight where we take apart what you build. For today's episode, we'll be going over the Dust Slizer, created and posted to our message boards by MSEP. And now, before we get started, let me remind you of my method of reviewing, which involves a point system that is based on 3 fundamental attributes: the overall appearance of the MOC, the build of the MOC itself, and the concept and ideas behind the MOC's creation. Each quality will mount up to 5 points, leading up to a final score that will be determined at the end of the episode. And please remember that this is all based on my opinion. Okay, let's get this started. Wow, now doesn't this look like a blast from the past, huh? Just looking at this MOC brings me back to the days when we didn't have a whole lot of options when it came to building with Technic like how we do now. The days before Bionicle and CCBS were a thing. The days where... yeah, these days. And yeah, sure, there are a couple of modern elements thrown into this MOC, but that's not the point. But all that aside, and despite all the familiarities, the MOC still looks new and refreshing. It's got some rather lanky proportions that I actually don't mind. I find that it gives the figure a sort of cartoonish or sci-fi robot appearance, and with the slender limbs and the big chunks of armor layered over it all, it actually kind of reminds me of something else. But I can't really put my finger on it. Is it a Metal Gear? Is that what it reminds me of? I don't know. It'll come to me a little later, I guess. But for what it is, it looks pretty good. It's got this nice even spread of tan and black all over the body, little bits of trans red that break up the monotony a little bit, but I feel like the MOC could use a little more of it somehow. Like it could use more of this sort of highlight color, because as it stands right now, it looks a little bit monotonous. And that's coming from a dude that talks like me. The whole upper body looks pretty cool, maybe a little too gappy for my taste, but still pretty good looking. This dude looks heavy duty, like he's ready for battle. He's got this gun arm and stuff, and the claws and the disc. You could probably use that to play death frisbee. Meanwhile, I'm not really feeling the lower body. It looks alright. I guess I'm just not really digging the legs all too much. Not because they're skinny or anything, but because of how they look. It just seems like there wasn't as much effort put into the legs as there was in the rest of the MOC. It kind of has that look to it. But yeah, I do like the shaping of the legs and the bird joints and all that. I think it could have looked a lot cooler, but right now it's just Then there's the head, which is a head, doesn't look bad. Looks to be properly seated on this torso here. And of course we can't forget to mention the big frickin' backpack that this guy has, which at first seems a bit odd and unnecessarily huge until you realize that it's for a built-in transformation feature that the MOC has. Yeah, that's right folks, this MOC could transform into a big bulky robo-rider, and by this point this MOC has started to remind me of a crossbreed between the Tumbler and a Michael Bay Transformer. And that's not to be taken as a diss, because I actually like the Bayformer designs. But anyway, the Robo-Rider mode, pretty cool. It's definitely got this sci-fi vehicle to it with all the mechanical textures and this totally unorthodox design. I mean, just look at this thing. It's got treads on the front of the vehicle and then big spiky wheels on the back. And it looks like a big mutated ATV. It's all unheard of, but it looks cool. And to be honest, I kind of like it a little more than the humanoid form. And I guess it's just because it's so unique. Now, we've basically gone over the big function or play feature that was implemented into the MOC's build, but let's take a look at other aspects of the build that makes the MOC shine. And first of all, in both forms, the MOC looks fairly solid and well put together. I feel that the builder demonstrates a very intuitive usage of his Technic elements, and as I may add, very creative. It definitely looks stable in vehicle form, however, not so stable in the robot form. It looks like the backpack may give it some balance issues, especially since the legs don't have much meat to them. Doesn't seem like these could really hold up the MOC all too well. But hey, at least if it topples over, it doesn't look like it'll smash into like a billion pieces. Or at least I hope not. And as a final note, the figure is very posable, featuring a variety of articulated joints that make it possible to transform and look cool in either mode. And all in all, for what's essentially a purely Technic build, overall I'd say this is a pretty great figure. And now, by this point, some of you may be wondering why this MOC still looks really familiar to you. And well, if it reminds you of a Slizer or Robo Rider, then you are on the right track. Because the builder actually intended to create either one of the two, either a Slizer or a Robo Rider. But ultimately, he couldn't decide on which one he wanted to do, so he ended up literally combining both concepts into one creation. And now we have a Slizer that can transform into a Robo Rider. And now, both Slizers and Robo Riders were fairly simple yet neat little Technic builds from before Bionicle's heyday. There wasn't really much to them, and they weren't incredibly complex, but they all still carried an ounce or two of character within them. And here we have a big, fairly complex build for a Slizer or Robo Rider, and yet it still looks to be from the same family. It follows the style of both themes with the gappiness, the strange proportions, the Technic elements, the disc, the strange looking tricycle mode, all of these qualities, these features, all of them reminiscent of the old LEGO themes. And even if you're like me and you never really cared for the designs of these things all too much, the MOC still stands out as its own piece of cool creative work. So aside from achieving the goal of creating both a Slizer and a Robo Rider within one MOC, the builder also achieved the goal of making something creative and interesting all in all. And sure, it could look a little bit better in some areas, but hey, you know, so could the Slizers and the Robo Riders. I mean, seriously, these things, they don't look all that great. I mean, maybe if I grew up collecting them, I would appreciate them a little bit more, but Now, let's move on to the final scores and get this all wrapped up. So, in terms of appearance, this MOC receives a 4 out of 5. It's a pretty cool design in both modes. I mean, regardless of my gripes, such as, you know, with the legs and such, I can still look at this MOC and think, man, this is actually pretty neat. Like this big brutish robot that transforms into this big brutish tank-looking tricycle thing. It's working. It's really working for me. In terms of the build, this MOC receives a 4.5 out of 5, simply because I feel like the legs should have been changed all in all, not only for looks, but also for the sake of the MOC stability, because again, it does feel like the MOC could topple over very easily due to the big backpack. But man, there's a whole lot of good stuff to this build. It's solid, it's intricate, it looks like a toy that could actually be played with, it's got a transformation feature, you know, all in all, it's a pretty good build. And in terms of the concept, this MOC receives another 4.5 out of 5. There are some quirks to this MOC that I feel could be improved, but all in all, there's no denying that this MOC looks pretty much like an updated Slizer and Robo Rider. You know, I really do appreciate how the builder was able to make something that looks like it fits both families. And I would even argue that it actually looks a bit better than the members of these families. And with some very slight changes, I feel like we could have something just a bit better here, but as it stands right now, I'd say that the builder's goals are very well achieved, and, well, now we are left with our final score, which all adds up to a 13 out of 15. So good on you, MSEP! Congrats for making it onto the MOC Spotlight. I hope to see more out of you, and I hope to learn what the heck MSEP stands for, if it stands for anything at all. If it doesn't, that's cool, because neither does TTV. Ha ha! Speaking of TTV, hey viewers, did you know that you could post your own LEGO creations on our message boards at board.ttvchannel.com to earn yourself a very high possibility of being featured on the MOC Spotlight in the future? That's right, that is the only way you can make it onto the MOC Spotlight, is if you post to our message boards under the LEGO Creations category. And that's all you gotta do, and then I can take it away from there, so long as I find the MOC creative and or interesting enough to warrant a spotlight. And pretty soon I will be taking a look at system builds, and I will elaborate a little more on that on the podcast, but for now, I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.